Hello, welcome to our podcast. My name is Graham, and today we have our guests Leah and Dana.
No.
Hi.
So, what does feminism mean to you guys?
For me, feminism means like making women and men equal, so they have equal rights and everything. For me, it's not about elevating women above men, or it's not an anti-man movement. It's just about equality, basically.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dana. For me, feminism is also equality and that you as women have the same rights as men. Um, and they can represent their opinion and can do what they want to do. Yes.
And you would both consider yourself feminists?
Yeah, I would say so. I believe that we should be equal and have equal rights. So, in that sense, I would consider myself a feminist.
Yes, I have the same opinion.
I'd hope you'd both consider that you have equal rights as long, because I also consider myself a feminist,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope the same for all women and all men as well,
Yeah.
for us all to be equal. But to continue to the next segue, have you guys watched the Barbie movie?
Yes.
Yes.
What did you guys think about the movie?
Well, when I first watched it, I liked it. It was well, if you just consider it as a blockbuster movie, I personally found it funny. I know some people wouldn't consider it funny, but they had some good jokes, in my opinion. It was kind of funny sometimes. And yeah, in the beginning, I liked the movie. The more I read about it and got more opinions from other people, the more I'm like, and I don't know. I still like it, but mm, it has some improvements to do, I would say. So, for example, I get the message behind the movie, but I think that the way they kind of talked about feminism was a bit too much on surface level. So it was a bit obvious, the things they said to most of the women. I think that was very obvious, the things they said. So I think they could have gone a bit more into detail with certain things. Yeah, that's how I would say my opinion is right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I also think the film was very stereotypical and one-sided for me. So the feminism was very exaggerate. But I think that was also the point of the film, which is why many people talked about the film afterwards. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think they kind of did it on purpose, the whole exaggeration and stereotypes and everything, just to make it like blatantly obvious, the inequality and everything. So I think they kind of did the whole thing on purpose, but I do understand why some people might not be happy about how these stereotypes were portrayed and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
What are some aspects of the stereotypes that you genuinely agree with from the movie, feministic or not? Like,
Mm, that's a good question. Okay, to say it differently, the aspects I don't agree with was okay, no, the aspects I agree with in the film were, for example, how they portrayed that Barbie could have different jobs and also be president and also have higher jobs that in our society, I would say, are still more male dominated. But I think that, like I said before, feminism is about equality. So to see that Barbie can also have higher positions like president or stuff like that, I agree with the idea that women can also be that. But like I said, the whole Barbie land was exaggerated, so it was only women at the top and only women had jobs, and the Kens didn't really have um, meaningful jobs, I would say. So I don't think that it should be like that in reality, but I do agree with that women can have like every job they want as the same as men can. So yeah.
Is there anything more you'd like to elaborate also on? For example, like my take on the movie as well was basically that there's also the stereotypes that were exaggerated in Barbie Land, but also in the real world. Like,
Mm,
for example, the catcalling early on in the movie and stuff like that. From my, obviously, I haven't necessarily had a first hand experience with this, but most women I know have had that. And I don't know if you feel like it happens as much or as obviously as it does in the movies. And obviously, part of it is realistic, of course. I don't want to undermine any actual situations that have happened. But
yeah.
is it as
I
bad as the movie portrays it, for example? Not just catcalling, just
um
anything.
yeah, for catcalling itself, I know in the movie it was very like straightforward, the catcalling and stuff like that. I don't want to say that that is not true because I I do assume that some women have experienced it like that, and it also depends in which country you are. Because, for example, the whole film is based in America, so maybe it's more true in America, that kind of straightforward catcalling and aggressive catcalling. But for example, for me, I've only a few times in my life experienced catcalling, and mm, yeah, it's still awkward, but it was not that straightforward and aggressive, I would say.
And are there any personal issues yourselves that you would have, if you had the chance to direct or produce a movie, that you would have liked to add? Like a certain scene or a certain feministic message?
Yeah, for me, when I watched the movie, I kind of wished it ended a bit differently. So for example, it ended with Barbie taking over Barbie Land again, and then all the Barbies having the higher positions again in the jobs. And but in the end, they were kind of open to the possibility that the Kents could have a seat in the parliament. But I kind of wish the movie would have ended on more like equality. But I do understand the message, like they did that on purpose, just to show that equality is still not achieved in society in certain aspects. I do understand that, but I kind of wish they would have ended the movie like with equality between the Kens and the Barbies. I think that kind of would have made the end a bit better, in my opinion.
Is like, for example, obviously this is just an opinion. This whole podcast, it's ideas that we have. But overall, I also think my experience with the end, at least, even though I wasn't completely focused, my take on it was also that Barbie Land was fantasy land, even though there's a whole problems with the Kens and the Barbies. It
Mm-hmm.
was obviously different to normal society because there was no economy, there was no, you know what I mean, like actual jobs, for example, or anything like that. Everyone could be what they wanted in some way,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like the ending represented also that women had the choice to be whatever they wanted because Barbie didn't choose to stay where she was. She would be forced to be a Barbie, if that makes sense. And that was
Yeah.
somewhat my take on it too. Like she wanted to go back to the real world to discover herself more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Figure herself out, and I think that's also a big part of feminism, just encouraging women and empowering women as well. Like I'm
Yeah.
not saying past equality, but I'm saying like lots of the things aren't necessarily both for men and women. Uh, some things are more difficult to talk about in some social groups compared to others.
True. Yeah.
But is there any opinion? Would you like to see a movie like Barbie again? Were you happy with the aspects that it portrayed or the feministic message? Like, all right. So, would you like to see any aspects from the Barbie movie with a feministic message or a very similar type of movie in any future releases, whether it be Barbie or not, just in any feature film?
Yes, I think the speech about the feminism was very interesting. For me, the speech was very moving and emotional, and that's why I would like to see it in several films in the future.
Yeah. I also agree with that. And I would also like hope that in future films, which are feministic, they would also show a bit feminism towards men or what feminism can do for men. For example, in the Barbie movie, they kind of already hinted at, for example, the inequality between men themselves. So, for example, the Kens were constantly fighting with each other and constantly thought that they had to be better than each other and stuff like that. And that's also something feminism wants to combat because that's also like a gender stereotype. So I would also um, find it interesting if future films would also show more of the feminism aspect, but what it can actually do for men. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, I think. I agree with you.
Yeah, I would also agree, basically. I do like to think back. There's lots of different types of movies and lots of different methods and approaches people have taken to feminism as well. Having a character that's really badass, for example, you know what I mean? Being
Mm-hmm.
adventurous or being, how do you call it, by herself, not necessarily needing or having a love interest, just like in Barbie as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think all these aspects can also be, considered partially feministic, and as well, just seeing how men can encourage women is also something that I would like to see. Not necessarily just have uh, men take the spotlight or only women take the spotlight, but have it, be equal. All right. I think that wraps up what we wanted to talk about. Those are our main points regarding feminism. Of course, if you want to find out more about feminism and educational content, you can follow us on our social media. If you also just want to learn more regarding the Barbie movie and its different messages, you can do that on our social media as well. Thank you very much, Dana and Leah, for being the guests on tonight's show. And I wish you guys a future success.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, viewers, have a great evening and take care.